Hey everyone, this is Mayur. Welcome back to MLOps. In this video, we'll be discussing about Ray Serve. So in the previous video, we have discussed how to set up Ray on a Kubernetes environment. Now what we'll do is we'll deep dive into Ray Serve, which is one of the key component of Ray framework, which helps you to deploy a machine learning model as an HTTP endpoint, and you can scale those endpoints like vertically, horizontally as required. Okay. So we'll also understand how to combine multiple model using Razor, which is quite easier to do. So we'll do all those stuff. Okay, let's understand with the basics of what is machine learning model looks like. So first what we'll do is we'll look at a translator app, which is this specific piece of code where you have a transformer pipeline and you take a specific model, which is translation from English to French. And this is the model size or something, right? Like specification with respect to model size, or this is also the model as well, because this is the task, translation is the task, and this is the model. So this is from transformer library. So what we do is we create a class and we have a constructor in it, and where we declare our model that we want to use. Now what we do is we again create a method called as translate, and which takes in an input text, which is a string, and then we take the model and pass the string and get the output, and the output is a list of dictionary, and we get the text, translation text, which is the key. So we'll get the output from here. Now we are just initializing the class here, translator, and then we are doing translator.translate. This is the method translate, and we are passing our text, which is this text, and then we get our translation. So let me just run this first. This is the basic version of a model, right? Where you have downloaded a model, you are taking a text and getting the output. Then we'll combine, we'll be turning this code into a Razor deployment code, which will turn it into a endpoint. So let me just run this for now. Okay, this is translator. So yeah, let's see. So good morning will be turned into French. Okay, we'll get something here. This is bon matin. So this is in the French version of it. And it is also mentioning here, right, hardware accelerator GPU is available. So I do have a GPU in my host machine, but I'm not using it here. But if I want to use it, I can just do here device is equal to CUDA. Okay, so this will use my GPU. So let's try that again. So Python 3 translator.py. So now it won't give that warning or message here, and it will just directly give us the translation. So this is done. Now the code is quite simple. So we have a class and we just initialize the class and call the method translate and pass the text, and we get the output. Now it will be easier when you see the Ray version of this piece of code. So let me go to Ray translator. So here we have the request that is taken in by the endpoint once we create that. So import corresponding packages that are required. We need request, then we need Razor, and then again the transformer pipeline. So we take the whole the piece of code that we took from here, the translator.py, the class init and translate. So we have it here, init and translate. So it gives you the same thing. There are just two things that we are adding here. One is the serve.deployment. Okay, so what it does, right? It tries to change your class object, Python class, into a Razor deployment once you use this decorator or serve.deployment. Now serve.deployment also takes in a bunch of parameters, which is num replicas, Ray actor options, where you can mention the resources. So the first point, num replicas is equal to 2. So what it will do is it will try to create 2 replica or 2 processes of this particular class. So it can handle 2 requests simultaneously. Okay. Or it can, that's the case, right? You can have like 2 processes of the same function or the same class, and it will be capable of handling multiple requests. And you can also, since I have single machine, right? I have one host machine, and I have multiple GPUs or multiple CPUs, I can fractionalize my resources for each deployment or each replica. In this case, 0.2 CPUs will be used for one replica. Okay, and second replica will also consume 0.2 cores or CPUs. Okay, so this is the point where you can mention the number of processes or number of copies of your model that needs to be run executed. So here I am giving it as 2. There will be 2 copies of translation that will be running. Okay, and now how to handle the request, right? So there will be simultaneously multiple requests will be coming up. Okay, so for that we have to use async. So whenever the translator is called, we are using this specific, we are making modification to this class using the call method that we are modifying here. So asynchronously we want to call, and it will take in the HTTP request, and the HTTP request is given as a wait because it can asynchronously run. Okay, so it will take in the request and we are getting the JSON out of it, and then we are fetching our text, and then we are applying the text to translation. So we are using self.translate, which is this particular function. We are using that self.translate and passing the English text that is coming as part of your HTTP request. So this is part of the change that we have to make with RACER deployment, okay, where we are using this decorator, passing the number of replicas, the resources, and all those information here, and then we are turning our class into the call that we make to this class. We need to modify that. We are using async and how it needs to handle that particular request that is coming in. So those things are taken care here. So once that is done, okay, what we do is we bind the translator class, we bind it to this self init, right? We are binding it to the init. So what happens is, if you pass some parameter here, okay, for example, some other model, right? Model is equal to something, right? Some other model like Roberta, some other model, right? So what will happen is, we'll be again taking in here the model part. Okay, so this model will be replicated here, the parameter will be passed here, and this model will be given here. Okay, let me just change it here. So we can keep changing the models as part of the input. So let me undo that. So for now, it is not taking any arguments because we are good with this specific pipeline. We are using this model, this specific task, and we are good with that. And if you want to change the task, then you can pass the parameter, some task parameter, and then it can take it here also the task parameter, and it will be sent here, the task. Okay, so this is how it will be used. This binding will work. So that's it. So we have what we call serve deployment, RACER deployment is there. We have binded our class with the init function or the constructor. Now let's run this app. So what we have to do is, since this is under model file, not RACER, just serve run, and we have to give the file name, which is array translator colon the app. This is the translator app. So let me run this here. So translator app. Yeah. So this will be up and running. Importing the path array translator dot, and it is running at dashboard. This is the dashboard path, and it is creating 2 replicas. And the replica, this translator is available at 127.0.0.1 at 8000 port. Now what we'll do is, it is successfully deployed now. Now we'll try to hit the specific app that we have running it as an HTTP endpoint. We'll try to hit that endpoint. So if I go to client, okay, if I go here and English text, that's my input. And I'll just change this English text. So let me run this here. So Python 3 and client.py. So it should send this request English text and it should give the output to us. Let's see here. So it is taking more time. So let us go to the dashboard as well, right? So here we have 127 dot, it is for 7 I guess, if I am not wrong. Yeah, 1267. So the reason this is not working is because the text that I am taking here, because it's directly passing it as what JSON, right? Let me just put it inside a tuple. It should work now. But we can look at the dashboard here if it is running. Okay. And we are seeing this is 2 minutes, it's up and running, but you're not seeing the results. Neither we are seeing any issues coming up. So let's go back and see it is in reserve client.py, Python 3, English text. Okay, and then we are passing it to 8000. I hope it is running on 8000. Yep, it is running on 8000. And then why we are not seeing the results? Okay, let's wait for a minute. Okay, let's understand certain things. Maybe I'll just have to, it's not giving anything, right? Any information here. Get response, status. So English text, HTTP response request dot. Okay. So this worked fine. Okay, but when it comes to this one, it is not working. Let's see. Let me just pass it again as just English text, not as a tuple, as a string. And let us hit this again. Okay, that's quite odd. Okay, so the thing is, it worked when you're passing it as a string itself. Okay, maybe because you have to pass it as a when you have a bigger line right here, like multiple lines, then you have to pass it as a tuple, I guess. Okay, so it will be converted into JSON and then it will be sent to our endpoint and we'll get the response here. So this is working fine. Okay. Now what we'll do is, so this is one model and we served it as an endpoint using reserve. Now let's go back to another model and we'll try to combine multiple models and then how reserve will handle the request, right? So we'll understand that aspect. So let me go to summarizer model. Okay, this is also simple model as translator. Okay, we are creating a pipeline. Task is summarization, the same old model T5 small, and the model will take in the input in some length, min length and max length, what is the expected input, and then we get the summary text. And as expected, if you see here, we are just initializing the class and then the input is passed to the summarize method and we are getting our summary. So this is simple. So let me just run this here, or let me go to model file, Python 3, and I want to do summary. Let's see what it comes up with. It was the best of times. Okay, so yeah, so it has summarized and it gave us this result, and again it gave us that warning or a message that we are not using the GPU that is given. So let me start using the GPU. Okay, so this is done. Let me clear this and run this again. Yeah, so it gave us that summary. So this was the input. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times, it was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness, it was the epoch of belief. So it has summarized that into it was the best of time, it was worst of time. Now this is the summary output and this is another model, okay, summarizer model. Now what we'll do is we'll try to combine these two models, translator and summarizer, using reserve, and then serve one endpoint for the same, for the both. So for that, let me go to this specific file, rate trans and sum.py. Now the thing is, what we are trying to achieve here is we have a summary and we have translator. So first what we'll do is the input that comes in, we'll send it to summary model and we'll summarize the text. Once the summarized text is present, we'll send it to the translation model. So that's our whole goal of this combination of two models. So now comes up one important point, which is deployment handle. Okay, so what it will do is, since we are combining two models, so one model's output will be the input for the another model. Okay, so here we have we'll have one deployment, two deployments, and one deployment will handle the other deployment. In nutshell, that's what we are doing actually. So we'll have summary deployment, we'll have translator deployment. So translator deployment will be part of your summary deployments, because translator deployment takes in the input from the summary deployment. Okay, so that's the whole cycle, right, that is happening. So let's understand, right, how it happens. So the case is, first we have translator deployment. Okay, we are not passing any resources or replica here. You can add here anything if you want. It is given all the options that are given here. So name, what is the deployment name you can pass, or whatever auto scaling config, max ongoing request, queued request, all these things are there. Okay, you can experiment with that, and I'll leave it at it right now. We are not doing anything like that. So first we create a translator deployment which takes in the input and gives the translation, and it doesn't have that call method which we saw earlier. Okay, in the rate translator we saw call method. Okay, we don't have it because the call method will be sent to the summarizer, because summarizer is the first thing that will be getting hit, and that will handle the calls. So here this is done with the translator class. Okay, it is turned into a reserve deployment. So once this is done, we have our summarizer. Here what we do is, if you see here, we are not taking any input. Okay, like by default input in the constructor. But if you see in the summarizer deployment, it is taking translator deployment handle. So it is expecting another model or another reserve deployment. Okay, it is expecting that. So we have a translator deployment handle, and we are passing that as input, or as our constructor input. So we do that here, and then we do the regular thing with the summarizer model, which is this, and this will give the summary of the whole text that we pass. And in the call function, okay, the async diff call. So what we do is, first we take the input JSON, whatever the request that we are sending, and we send it to self.summary. It will summarize the text. Now we have included the deployment handle, which is translator, and we are using that now. So this will also be running as your asynchronously. The request that comes into the summarizer, that will be also handled asynchronously, and the thing that is coming to translator will also be handled asynchronously, because we have wait statement here. Now self.translator.translate.remote. So this will call the translate here, which is this function translate, and it is running as .remote. This is the module that is expected from you to what send .remote, and pass the summarized text, and then we'll get our translation. So this is the thing that we have to understand. Okay, we want to handle the asynchronously both summary and translator. So that is happening here, and we want to combine these two models. So first thing is, we have summarized model, and then we want to combine with the translate model. So we are using it here. All these things happen because we are able to take in the deployment handle, which is a reserve deployment that we are passing as an input to the another class or a deployment. This is also a deployment actually. Okay, this is summarizer is also a deployment. Now, how to combine these two, right? Like the point where it gets connected. So we have summarizer.bind followed by translator.bind. So here, if you see, there is no parameters inside the bind, but summarizer's bind takes in the parameter translator.bind. Because if you see here, summarizer, the default constructor's input, not input parameter, it takes translator. So we are passing that here. So this will help us to run two models simultaneously, and the request that is sent, it will first go to summary model, and then it will be going to the translator model. The output of the summary will go to the translator. So what we'll do is, I'll just go here and I'll just stop this translator app, clear this here. Now what I'll do is serve run, and what is my model's function file name, and then app name is app. Now it is running. Okay, importing path, it is 8268. Now let me go to 8268. So it is there. So the deployments are running. Okay, if you see here, adding one replica for translator, for summarizer, and it is ready to be hit at 80 port number 127.0.0.1. So all these things are up and running with clearly. Okay, we don't have to have any doubts here. Let me go to the dashboard here. If you see, there are two deployments. One is summarizer and there is translator. Let me go to the deployment. Let's understand what is happening here. So this is replica, the replica ID, and it has successfully on the node. So it is the same node. Both are running on the same node because we have only one machine here. And then what are the information we have? That's it. We have starting replica, deploying a new version. Yep. So we are good to go actually. So what we'll do is now we'll hit the endpoint. So here I have it, and what I'll do, I'll go to the client and comment this out, run this one. Okay, just summary text. So this is done almost. So we have everything running. Yeah. So let me run this, call this client, Python 3 client. Okay, it is not under model file, it is under racer. So Python 3 client.py. Now it should give us the translation of what we got, right? This the translation of this specific things. So it is taking time. Is it because of the tuple, or maybe let's wait for 5 seconds? I guess it should work. So we are not seeing anything coming up here where the service is running. So let me close it down, clear it, and run it again here. So let's hit again. So yep, it works. So this is the translation of the summarized content. Okay. So yep, it's working fine. So let's save everything. So what we have seen, right? Let me go back to the README again. So we deploy the model as HTTP endpoint for the translator app first place. Then we talked about little bit in terms of replicas, and then how we can use fractional resources of your machine, CPU or GPU. So that we have done, and we have combined two models, translator and summary model, and serve it as one endpoint. So we are at the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and in the next video I will be talking how to use fractional GPUs to run a model, right? Multiple replicas on a fractional GPU. Okay, so with that, thank you for watching.